Hi, we are out of recess for the Finance Committee and Council as a whole this evening. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Stacy, could you please do the roll call?
Councilman Gary Donovan.
Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor at Large, present.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky.
Councilwoman Bridget Husky, First District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon.
Councilman William X. Conlon, Second District, present.
Councilwoman Liz Johnston.
In Third District, present.
Councilman Mitch Galignano.
Councilman Mitch Galignano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, here.
Councilman Peter Massaro.
Councilman Peter Massaro, 6th District, present, and that's all I have to say.
Councilwoman Trenae McGee.
Councilwoman Trenae McGee, 7th District, present, and that's all I have to say.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present. That's all I have to say.
Robert Bruno.
Councilman Robert, 9th District, present, and that's all I have to say.
You guys are crazy. Councilman Barry Lee Cohen.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present, and most people think I've already said too much. Thank you.
And Chairman Ron Quagliani is absent this evening. Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you, Stacy. So we have tonight before us the Tax Assessor's Office, and Anne Marie, I believe you are on the phone.
Yes, I am.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Everybody.
We're so happy you can join us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So generally what we do, you have the option to talk to us about your budget, give us any information that you think is pertinent for us to know. Once you are done, we will allow a question and answer period. We give each council person the opportunity to ask questions. We limit them to 2 each, and we kind of do a round table. And then if they have any follow-up questions, we'll give them an opportunity to come back around in the second round. We do ask that you yourselves during the question and answer to kind of prevent any back feed. And just to help us along, if you are referring to anything in the budget book, if you could just let us know the page to which you're on. I should have mentioned that in the past, but I realized last night when I couldn't figure it out that I was like, ugh. And I was like, what page is that? So that would just be very helpful, that if you want us to refer to something, that you just tell us what page you're on so we could all look at it. So,
okay.
Anne Marie, you have the floor.
Actually, I think the collector's office is supposed to be first. If that's.
I think so.
I'm sorry the confusion, but this is Leslie Marcarelli Naseby from the tax collector's office. I think I was supposed to go.
I'm so sorry. You're absolutely
That's okay.
right. No, so all of that goes to you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you,
No
Leslie.
No problem. So my budget is, you want me to start?
Yes,
Shall I proceed?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The office tax collector's budget is pretty straightforward. We don't have too many changes from year to year. There's no change in salary this year. The only real change that we're asking for is an increased amount in our mailing and postage category, and that's because we've added some additional dunning to our annual mailings. We mail the big tax bills out in June, and then we do a supplemental tax bill that goes out in December, but we've added another series of dunning letters that go out in the fall. So we now done in the fall for people that missed their July payment, and we done in the spring for people that still owe a balance in the spring. And that's really the only change.
And is that all you have to say about that? Because that's generally how Councilman Massaro finishes. No, I'm teasing. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Leslie? Councilman Cohen?
Hi, Leslie. This is Barry Cohen, 10th District Councilman. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
Very good. And thank you, Madam Chair. You hit on the point, and my only question is both on the mailing and the printing. You've clearly explained why the increases are there, but I'm just curious, has there been any initiatives or any review or evaluation of perhaps some of these letters or some volume of mail in general, instead of going what I call snail mail? I don't know if it's legal, illegal, but some of this for some consumers, especially today, might prefer to get things via email. And I don't know if that's allowed or not, but I could see it saving on postage and printing to a very large degree. And by the way, I happen, just for full disclosure, I have my own communications company, and I deal with this with my companies that have large volume of order purchase and stuff like that. And I know that customers quite often prefer to have that digital and then to be able to pay direct, based on their bank account online. So not knowing anything about municipal billing, I'm hoping that perhaps we might be able to, at some point, if not looked at already, to take a look at that digital, at least from a printing standpoint anyway. And that's my only question, if you could address that. Thank you.
Yes, I don't think that we're there yet with the digital for the tax bills. I think the tax bills actually do have to be mailed by statute, but we do have an online, taxpayers are allowed to pay online. We use a company called Point and Pay, and we are just in the process of an upgrade of that system. I think it actually, we were in the process of it, and then all of this happened with the pandemic. And so their priority became to have a system so that, to service the taxpayers so that people could call in and make payments by phone. They were always able to pay online, but there are a lot of people, especially like maybe elderly people or people that don't really have the computer sophistication, that like many times we're calling our tax office and asking if they could make a credit card payment by phone. We didn't have that ability, so we did an upgrade of our payment service, and so now we have the voice ability for people to pay by credit card that way. And they do have a system in the upgrade where people could like put ticklers in their payments. So if someone wanted to make, they weren't able to pay all at once and they wanted to pay monthly, they could get an email. So we're still working on that part of it, but I don't think
Leslie, if I can just interrupt you there, but what I'm curious about is in the beginning, and I appreciate the explanation, is do we know definitely if it's required by statute to mail them out, or is that something that, I wish that Lee was on the phone, was on the line, because I'm very curious if indeed it is required by statute. If it is, then great. But if we don't know that for certain, I would love to get to find out, because my feeling is I understand that people, the credit card, I understand about the payments, but in terms of the city doling out this extra money, a 35% increase and a 16% increase, and because of the extra money letter. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. My recollection is that they had to be mailed, but that may change, or I don't know of any municipality that. But I can certainly get you an answer on that if it's a possibility. I don't know of any municipality that does that, but I'm 99% sure it has to be mailed, but I can certainly research that and get back to you.
I would really appreciate that. Thank you. And if you can just send that to the Madam Chairwoman, and I'm sure, and myself, and I think everyone here really wants to know that answer, I think. So
sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I'm done, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Does anyone else have any questions for Leslie? Councilwoman Johnston?
Sorry about that. Good evening, Leslie. Hi, this is Liz Johnston from the 3rd District. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. My question was the same, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I wonder if it's something where like utilities can ask customers if they have wireless capability, if they want to be paperless rather. And I would imagine that if it is a statute, there's got to be some kind of paper trail. But when you said that billing, reminders go out several times, I wonder if once is enough. And if people were allowed paperless, if the reminder one that's later in the year, if that could be electronic. So I don't mean to, just repeat Councilman Cohen, but I'm just thinking about it that way, that maybe it's customer option, because it is such a big part of your budget, it seems. So
it is a big part of the budget. I mean, I guess part of it would be we'd have to have the emails, and we'd have to have, so our software company represents 90% of the municipalities for the state of Connecticut. And there currently are no fields where not phone numbers, emails could be stored. But I mean, certainly, I'm happy to look into it and see if there's a mechanism to do that for reminders and things like that. They're just, we're faced with the limitations of the system as well. So, but I can certainly make inquiry.
Councilwoman Johnston, are you all set? Did you have a follow-up? You're muted, Councilwoman. You want to give me a thumbs up if you're good? Are you all set, Councilwoman? All right, does anyone else have any questions for Leslie? I do have, I'm just curious in regards to even the printing. When we print on your budget, and I know you must have printing, do we go outside of City Hall to print? Or is that just office supplies printing? Or is that the tax bills that come from somewhere?
Everything is printed outsourced through our software company, Quality Data, and they also have the ability to club bill, which is where we try to save postage and printing. If one person has, say, 3 motor vehicles, they're put on one bill. So because they're able to pull and manipulate the data. When we priced it out, they were cheap. It used to be done by somebody else, and we found that they were the cheapest because they actually have the system and they do the mailing.
Okay, and the increase in it, is it just overall in inflation, or is it, because it's gone up by over $3,000? I mean, I'm just curious, is it?
Yeah, part of it's postage, and part of it is because I increased the mailing. Again, I added another mailing so that and originally we used to do it only in the spring, but we added a complete fall mailing because we just found that if people got the additional mailing, they would pay. So it seemed like a good way to go.
Right. So what type, is it like a postcard, or are we sending an actual letter? Like, what is that? It's a letter?
Yeah.
Anything else for Leslie? Anybody? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
This doesn't really have anything to do with the budget per se, but I'm just wondering, with this COVID environment, what is the operations in your office right now? What's going on?
That's a good question. So we're not open to the public, but as you can imagine, and especially initially, there were many, many phone calls that came in. So, the staff is answering calls. We're still getting mail, and we also set up a drop box at City Hall so people could actually come to City Hall and pay into the drop box. And people were also paying by credit card. And then additionally, staff does things like we run lists of new owners of properties so that they can get a letter. Maybe closing transpired and the new owner didn't realize that they were responsible for taxes, things like that. Researching bad mail. Normally during this time we're doing the boot, but we're not running that now because of the situation. But, they're basically doing mailings, prepping the files for our lien assignment that's coming up. So giving DMV clearances, things like that.
Thank you, Leslie. That's it, Madam Chair.
Does anyone else have any questions? I do just have one follow-up off of that. In regards to collections and people paying their bills, at this point, I know they're not due until July, but I'm assuming that in the past, people might pay in April or March. Have you seen a decline? Have you seen any evidence that there may be some holdup, or has the activity pretty much been the same, even with the pandemic and the current status of, residents possibly having lost their jobs or feeling the strain on their income?
I think things have trickled off the past few weeks, but I actually just ran these numbers for somebody else. So from March 1st through April 23rd, today's date, the tax office collected $1,674,000, which is a pretty big number. I was actually surprised how much it was, considering everything that's been going on. But again, I did a mailing on March 1st, giving people 30 days to pay. And when that mailing goes out, that's like my pre-lien letter. So that does generate a flurry of payments. So yeah, the short answer to your question is it's really too soon to tell what really the outcome of this pandemic is going to be. I think we will know a lot sooner because you chose the low interest rate option because, I think people that would normally pay, that can pay, will pay, and then we'll kind of see what the fallout is sooner as opposed to the other option, that deferment option, and we wouldn't know until much later.
Were you able to compare that to that same time period last year? Or that wasn't, you weren't asked that, so you probably didn't pull it. I'm just curious.
I wasn't asked that, but I know that just before that happened, we were trending ahead of last year. And so I don't have the exact numbers, but I think we're a little bit behind now because of the past few weeks. But prior to starting with the March 1st date, I know that we were trending ahead. And then it looks like, probably the last few weeks have just dipped off a little bit. I can give you a report with the exact figures if you want. I just don't have it prepared.
No. It honestly is just, curious. I'm very curious about things.
Yeah.
So no, that's really great. I mean, just to hear that, we are trending better than where we were last year. $1 million seems like a lot of money. So hopefully that continues to be the case. But I just want to confirm that nobody else has any questions for Leslie. Well, we are all set, Leslie. I think I want to thank you for coming this evening, and we appreciate you. We appreciate the information, and we do hope that you and your staff stay healthy and safe during this time, and hopefully it'll be over soon.
All right, thank you so much. If any of the council people have any questions anytime during the year, my door is always open. So please, stop down for a visit or give me a call and I'd be happy to answer any questions throughout the year.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
I'm going to stay on.
Oh, okay, excellent. Anne Marie, are you still with us? I have the schedule right now. So if you would like to go over your budget or give us a high level overview, I believe it's page 56, 57. But you can take it away.
Okay, I believe I know I've met a few of you, but in case you're not familiar with what the assessor's office does, and I'll give you a little bit of a background. I have been the assessor for the last 13 years. The assessor's office is the primary source of revenue used to fund the city's budget. It's the center of information for both the public and other town departments. We provide a wide variety of data to different customers. The primary objective is to ensure, of course, that all taxable property located within the town is assessed according to the applicable law, and that every taxpayer, every property owner, I should say, shares an appropriate portion of the total property tax burden. We also provide a wide variety of service programs, homeowners benefit, the senior tax relief, local tax freeze, veterans exemption, blind and totally disabled, et cetera, et cetera. That's really about the example and summary of it.
Did you want to talk about your budget at all? Any changes and requests you're making this year?
No, if anybody has any questions, I can answer.
Okay, no, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Anne Marie? Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Anne Marie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Anne Marie, I know that looking at your budget that we added one data entry specialist, and I'm going to kind of leverage a comment that our chairman Ron Quagliani made, and he's been making to a number of sessions, and I'm just going to reiterate it. Is, we're all asking to make a lot of hard choices, a lot of hard decisions. We have a very tough budget year ahead of us on top of the pandemic, even if the pandemic never happened. And I've gone through the budget, gone through your budget and pretty much everyone's budget, as everyone here has. And I can tell you that most of these positions that departments are asking for, I can understand to differing degrees. But at the end of the day, if you did not add this other position, what would happen? I mean, would you be any worse off today than you would be next year? And I only say that because it is about $59,000. I have my glasses on right now, or $56,000. And so it's a lot of money in a year that we're very tight. And I can tell you from my perspective, what I've been telling my constituents, I'm very concerned about that. We have to really hold the line wherever possible, and where and if there is any extra money identified, I'm a big proponent of putting things in the general fund contingency, because we simply don't know what this next year is going to bring in terms of what if anything, the state or federal governments will be giving the cities to help with the added expenses of the pandemic, and what other new requirements should it be, and anywhere from equipment to safety personnel to a rotary of other things to sanitizing, that we're going to need to tap what I consider to be a rainy day budget, which is already too low. And I know that we are beyond being at junk bond status. We need to be taking a look at how we're managing our money and unfortunately having to make tough decisions. With that said, I'm looking at this and I know it's well-intentioned, but I know that I'm having trouble willing to, I should say, vote yes on this extra position. not because I don't think that is necessary. It's just that choices need to be made. And I look at this being something that we have to bite the bullet. And I'll be saying the same thing to other managers, department managers as they come through. And so if you can justify for me why we really, 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 really need that extra position, I'd appreciate it. And I say that respectfully. Thank you.
I'd like to just clarify that I am adding this position, but I'm eliminating another position.
I see that.
So the added
Your overall net is
position
one. Your overall net is one, though.
Excuse me?
Your overall net is one. You're adding a position, but you had one data entry specialist. Now you have two. Now, granted, you're eliminating one position, right? I understand that. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm adding one with that the salary is $56,820 and eliminating the $51,880,000. So it's a difference of roughly 4,900 for the year. So what one of my employees at a lower level position works out of grade at my request and the necessity to get the work done. So I usually pay her at that higher rate of pay when she does that.
But you've also increased your, well, it's only modest. I see that your overtime is being increased, and yeah, which is really, really not much. And I guess what I'm saying is why? So basically, the person, when they were in this has to be my second and last question because we're only allowed 2 questions. This is going to be my second question. Okay, is the person was an assessment analyst, but in actuality, were they really doing their job, or were they doing data entry anyway? And you're just trying to basically get them to the position level that they're going to be at.
If I didn't have
because you needed an analyst before.
Position.
Yeah.
If I didn't have this position or let's just say if the assessment analyst was to leave tomorrow, I still would rather hire a data entry specialist so I can get all the work done and know what the salary will be for the year, as opposed to just paying that person when I need them to get things done. But to get back to the overtime, the only reason why I hired the overtime this year was because it's a revaluation year. And with everything that's going on in the city, and then, of course, the COVID, I know we're going to have a lot of appeals with the revaluation. So I just asked for a little bit more because I have a feeling that with all those appeals, I'm going to be working with the board a lot more. And I also do stay to review all the values and, so that's why I added that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Councilwoman Johnston, anyone else have any questions?
Sorry, my question is answered already. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Anne Marie? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Hi, Anne Marie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for coming on tonight, both you and Leslie. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Leslie. What's going on in your office right now concerning operations with the COVID-19 environment? Is there lots to do? Can you just let us know what's going on?
Sure. We are doing deeds, and this is a great opportunity to get our deeds, up to date, and we have. We just sent out a big mailing to all the homeowners and local freeze program to let them know what's going on about not having to come in to apply for the programs, that they'll automatically be renewed for this year. And we wanted them to have that in their hands so they know next year what they have to do because they're elderly. So instead of just telling them over the phone, we wanted them to have this as evidence. Because we are getting a lot of phone calls from the elderly. We also just did a mailing for the annual income and expense forms for, especially for this year because it's a revaluation year. So although all that mail is being returned, we have to log it in, review them, and work with the revaluation company with that. And there's also a lot of other mail and emails and phone calls to work on. Filing, a lot of filing. And that's about it.
Thanks, Leslie. I mean, thanks, Anne Marie. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions? So, Anne Marie, can you just tell me real quick? I do see, so the data entry specialist and the assessment analyst.
Yes.
What actually is the difference between the two? So I get that the data entry specialist does everything that the analyst does, but then
not everything, and that's why I really needed that position. Just to give you a little background on it, the majority of the staff, the assessment staff, the majority of the assessment staff works between, let's say, February 1st through October on all these programs that we have, the freeze, the veterans, the homeowners, the renters. We have about 900 renters that come in between that time. We have about 1,000 freeze, the local freeze program, and we get more and more each year. I think about 800 and 900 homeowners, along with once the bills are sent out, people are coming in getting pro rates. So the majority of our time is working with the public. So we don't have the time to work on the deeds. And so when October comes, we have to catch up on all our deeds for October 1st. So all the deeds that we're unable to work on and the address changes and everything for those months, we have to get it all done up to October 1st. When that's all done, then by November 1st, all of the personal property accounts and the motor vehicle, supplemental motor vehicle all comes in. So we have to price all of those. And we sent out the supplemental bills. As we send out the supplemental bills and people are calling for adjustments, then we're working on the regular motor vehicle list. So it's just all the timing of everything. And then once all that's done, we have to go all the way till we finish the grand list. Once the grand list is done at the end of January, then we're able to start again sometime in usually around February when all the programs start again to catch up on deeds for the next grand list for after October 1st. So October 2nd through, so October, November, December, January, and February. So it's the bulk of work.
Right. So if the assessment data entry specialists don't do, tell me again?
Yeah, so the assessment data entry specialist can do all of that and the analyst position cannot.
Oh, right. That's what I was saying, that the assessment data entry specialist can do what the assessment analyst was just doing. So you're not losing job functions. You're just making sure the person can all that other stuff. So I was just kind of curious as to what the difference was between the two, like what else they do that the other one doesn't.
Right.
It's interesting because depending on analyst and other job areas, have different titles. So I was just more or less curious. I do have another question. When we went through, or you and your town went through the tax reassessing people's properties.
Okay.
Went through that whole big, everyone had to send in their stuff, and I think it's just an assessment, right? A new tax assessment for everybody's properties. Is that what that was called? And we hadn't done that in how many years from the last time? It was quite a long time.
Yes, so in 2015 was the last revaluation. And so every 5 years, we're mandated by law to do another reval. So this year, in lieu of trying to inspect every property, we send out what's called data mailers to have everyone look at their information and make sure it's correct. And anybody who has a correction, they send it back in. We'll determine whether we need to go out and inspect it, and we'll call them. So that's to the point we're up to right now, finishing up with the data mailers. And I know right now we can't go into the houses, all the houses, so we're making phone calls, and if we have any discrepancies, we're calling the homeowner, and hopefully if we need to get into to inspect their house, it'll be after all this is over.
Correct. So I just wanted to ask some questions about that, because that really interests me, because it is such a huge part of where we get our revenue.
That is correct.
Do most municipalities do this quote unquote honor system? Because that's pretty much what it is, correct?
That is, and because what we call a full revaluation requires inspections to, let's not say all properties. We have about 16,000 parcels in West Haven. So in 5 years, if we have building permits and we inspect it, let's say 1,000 within those 5 years, then 1,500 need to be inspected. But we get usually about 1,000 a year, so it would be less than that. But because the price difference is so high that the towns just can't afford to do full inspections every year, every 5 years. So what we do is we use the honor system, but we also, what we do is we do a full review of the entire city of West Haven with the reval company. So myself or the other assessor will go out with someone from the revaluation company once we set preliminary values, and we drive our car to every single house to look at what we have for preliminary values and look at the house and kind of try to get everything from the outside of the house. But we feel very confident with the data that we have now because we've been using the same company for all these years. And the amount of interior inspections we get into, so.
Yeah, because I was just curious, and how we can, how do you possibly manage that? And the reason is that we see a lot of times, and I was talking last night with Fred and his group, and I think it was last night, and not all the days are getting confused, but people come in and put new roofs on the buildings, or they come in when nobody's looking and they do all these other things. And I know myself that you see people adding additions and you don't see a permit on the house, and you're just wondering, okay, well, if they're adding an addition to the house, they don't have a permit, how is the city going to be able to get that revenue? So it was just very curious, because I'm just wondering, how does any city assessor's office manage that? Because it seems like such a vast undertaking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. But most towns are doing it the way we're doing it now. Some towns, of course, with Fairfield County, they have the money, so they're able to do the inspections, but I feel confident with the data, as well as there's the useful tool of the internet now. We look up all of all the properties that sell, so that everybody, and flip, houses that also are flipped, we look up all the information online. And I literally add information from the internet. And if somebody calls us after we add something from the internet based on the multiple listing sale, and they ask us why their property went up, we say, well, the MLS listing shows that you had 2 bathrooms, and we only have you for 1. And if they disagree with us, we said, okay, then we'll be happy. I'm sure you would not mind us, to come in and inspect it and see. And most of the time, they're very helpful. They let us in. If not, I tell them I'm not changing it.
Oh, interesting. So let me ask another question. Oh my God, I think I went over my 2. 3, thank you, Councilman. 4, thank you, Councilman Donovan. Does anyone else they were like 1.2, 1.3. They were follow-ups to the same question. Can I do my one more follow-up? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Leslie? Amazing.
Anne Marie, let me ask you this, because this is some of the pushback I got from my constituents in regards to the reassessment and why it makes no sense for them to what is the word? Improve on their properties because they get taxed for it. So a homeowner said, you know, why should I put a new roof on my home? Because, you know, all they're going to do is, you know, raise the taxes because I have a new roof. Why am I going to do anything to my front walkway? And I'm thinking, your sidewalks? They're like, no, you put a new roof on, they're going to raise your taxes. No one should want to put a new roof on. I'm going to leave it like that until I get holes. Is that part of the assessment? Like, if I were to put a new roof on my house, do my taxes go up, or is that a wise tale?
Yeah, no. Roofing is just your basic maintenance. I do not increase assessments for basic maintenance. Okay, if you put an addition on a house or an extra bathroom or, you know, more living space or an expensive modern kitchen where you take down walls and such, that increases the value of your house, and taxes are based on fair market value. So that would change it, yes.
I didn't think so.
Sidewalk.
Yeah, it seemed just really crazy to me that was, you know, I'm thinking, you know, if you have a carport and then you end up putting on 4 walls and it becomes a garage, yeah, it's going to increase. Yes. But all right, I was very curious. I didn't think that was to be the case, but I didn't want to speak on something I had not asked the question. So I apologize, Councilman Cohen. You absolutely have the floor.
Well, now I now have a comment and a question. I can tell you about 10 years ago, I basically changed my aluminum siding that was in decent condition to vinyl siding, just because I wanted the color changed, and I was reassessed and my value went up just because I wanted to beautify my house. And then about 7 years before that, I put in new windows. You know, I needed some new windows, and because I needed to improve my house, otherwise I'd have leaky windows, and my assessment went up again. So I know that other towns don't seem to be as stringent, just talking to my relatives and so forth, but whatever the reason, again, this was done 10, 15 years ago, maybe times have changed, but it does, that fact or fiction or that myth may or may be somewhere in the middle ground based on, and you know, you go to the appeals board and they basically downgrade it a little bit more and so forth. But anyway, I digress. The last question that I had was, I understand your explanation to me prior, and also Chairwoman Hosky, about the data entry specialist. They can do a lot of this stuff. Are both of these positions, both the former analyst position and the data entry specialist, I'm going to do question 1A and 1B, okay? Are they union jobs?
Yes.
Okay, and the reason why I asked that is, what I'm concerned about, and I just want to be reaffirmed that in the job description for the data entry specialist, will it also list some of the responsibilities that you need to get the job done in the assessor's office that includes the analyst? Because what we don't want to end up with is no one doing whatever the analyst was doing. We have to make sure that we're covered there, because what you explained the jobs to be is, you know, we understood what the data entry specialist was, and then there was some other things the analyst did. So if you now have 2 data entry specialists, I would be concerned that that job description is basically includes all the entry specialist responsibilities plus those very needed and vital responsibilities for analysts. Otherwise, we're going to be short a very, very important responsibility. So how is that job description all encompassing, or encompassing enough of both of those responsibilities?
I believe so. I spoke to the Human Resource Department on that, but I will look further and make sure of that.
I truly ask you, so then basically the action items, at least that I've requested and that you've been so kind for both of you, thank you, is just to make sure that that responsibility is covered. Because yes, we are paying whatever $5,900, $4,900 more. there's the money side, but also the vital function the analyst was playing, that's covered. And prior to that, the statute. So for both of you ladies, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair, for my A and B questions there.
Mhm. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Anne Marie? Councilman McGee? No. Well, Anne Marie, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. As I was stating to Leslie, we do hope that you and your staff stay safe and healthy and wash your hands as much as possible. Thank you so much.
I just want to add, if any one of you have any further questions, you can email me. I'd be happy to answer your question if you think of something after.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And you guys all stay safe and well as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. I don't believe the city clerk, Patty Harbath is here yet. So we will just take a recess at 6:46 and come back for 7 o'clock, please.
Anne Marie Gradoya
has left the meeting.
The time is now 7 p.m. and the Finance Committee and City Council as a whole is now out of recess. We have before us the City Clerk's office with Patty Horvath. Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
So generally how we do this is that you or your team can present to us at a high level or very specifically your budget for 2021. Once you're completed, we will ask the council members if they have any questions. We will do a roundtable. Each council member, we ask that they ask 2 questions at a time, and then if there's a second round, if there's a need for a second round, we will go back around and ask anyone else if they have any additional questions. We do ask, go ahead. Oh, we do ask that you just remember to mute yourself so that it helps with the back feed. So if Councilwoman Finelli is asking you a question, just remember to mute yourself, and then when she's done, she'll mute herself and then you unmute and you can answer. We just find that when both mics are open that there's a back feed and there's a lot of static. So if you are ready, we are ready, and you can start presenting or tell us whatever you feel we need to know.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Rossi, Chairman Quagliani, Finance Chair Bridget Hosky, and City Council members. I want to thank you for your time. I just want to thank a couple people that helped me with this budget. First, I want to thank our Chief of Staff, Lou Esposito, who is always here at the god-awful early time every single day. And he's, he works hard upstairs, but he's always checking on us to make sure we're okay. It was my first budget, so I want to thank Frank Sepolinski, Ray Delamora, Rob Sandella for helping me answer a ton of questions. I want to thank Doug Coulter because I needed to put forward a grant for $7,000, and he was very generous with his time with me. I want to thank Dave Richards, our one-man technology department, for making sure all our technology is working. I want to thank my staff. I couldn't ask for a better staff. Everyone works so hard as a team. I'm lucky to have so much experience and knowledge with me. I want to let you know that we are doing a lot of extra work because the title searchers can get into a lot of city halls by appointment, but we are completely closed to the public, so we are doing the work for them, to just get the real estate moving forward. So we're helping the attorneys and the title searchers every day. And I just want to give you two numbers. our department, even with the pandemic, just working through the mail and the phone, we have brought in $267,723. That's 19,000 more than last year at the same exact time from March 16th until today. So I think that's just goes to show you how hard we are working to make business move forward. I'm here to answer any questions you have. We had a lot of input to the budget that we feel accurately reflects what we need to operate in the next budget cycle.
I'm just going to ask a clarifying question before I open it up to the council. Did you say that you $18,000 or $1,800 from this point last year?
Well, it's $19,341 from the March 16th to now, more than last year we brought in.
19,000.
During the shutdown.
Yeah, just because during the pandemic. I mean, it's because we are working so hard to, through the phone and the email and the Dropbox.
That's amazing, Patty. $19,000 is a lot of money. Like, that really is amazing. So please,
Well, yeah, and that's more, yeah. I mean, altogether, we brought in $267,723 in just those months.
Right.
Just since March to now.
Thank you. Okay, so this is when we're going to open it up to the city council. If you can just remember to mute yourself until you're going to answer, we would greatly appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Robin.
Before I start, I want to thank you for helping my constituent who needed some paperwork done, and you did not hesitate. And he wrote me today to tell me, thanks, Robin, I'm all set. So thank you. You made me look good.
Oh, thanks.
So Patty, if I'm reading your budget book right, it looks like you might have asked for a position. And it doesn't look like the mayor granted that position. Am I reading that right?
Yes, Robin. That was a full-time position. Actually, Lori is doing the job of two people, Lori Moran, because she used to do one job, put in their recordings, and then someone would verify it. So now she has to do both jobs, which is astronomical, really.
And with you not getting it though, like, is that going to be a really big issue?
Well, I'll let Lori talk about it.
Hi, everybody. This is Lori Moran. The trouble is, hi. The trouble is that we're backed up. So if you look on our website to see our land records, we're only verified up until I think February 20th. All of our documents are in up to the minute, but I have not had a chance to address the reports, that would constitute verification. So I'm backed up on that. Right now I'm about finishing up on the tax liens that I got from Leslie a couple of weeks ago. And it's the usual busy things and also, God forbid, if I'm out and Sharon's out, it's sort of at a standstill, which we always are careful never to let it be like that. But God forbid, you never know. I mean, it's a little bit at a standstill because that third person that can work the land records isn't really available at all because the position was removed.
I see. So is there anybody else in the office that could help you with that load?
Yes, Sharon helps me, of course, with the land records, but don't forget Sharon works the elections. She rules over all the vitals, and she does the reports and the phone calls, and we all do that all. I mean, it's not that we don't all help each other. It's just that since that other job was eliminated. It was more like one person puts all the land records in, then the other person combs through it to see that it works okay, and then we forward it to the IQS who services our land records, and then they send back a report of any little oddities that need to be, maybe a name misspelled, maybe a document isn't titled right. And once that's all processed, I go back to each day and fix it up so then it could be considered verified. And that's behind, I pay the bills with the munis and pass them on to Patty, and then Patty passes it on to the rest of the process. There's just a lot of things that fall through the cracks, like we could use help in our vault attaching map images to, we had a grant a while back and we had our map scanned on, but no one has had a chance to sit down and just attach the images because it's like boom, boom, boom in here. Everybody, needs something. Somebody doesn't understand something, got to explain it. It's not a complaint. It's just the nature of the culture of the clerk's office. People come here first, they don't know, they need help, and that's not always a 5-minute thing, and it sort of sets you back, a little bit.
Right.
We do the best we can, but, it's just sometimes things, a few things could use a little attention, like the code that I go by for the land records. That really, for years, needs attention so that it could really be more serviceable and easier to follow, but I just don't have a few days to sit with it and really work with it because there's never a lull really here. And you guys can actually see it because if you go on the land records, you can see that everything is timestamped. So you can see that sometimes the documents come fast and furious, It's,
Right.
Not really a break all the time.
Right.
And Robin, we are, back to a full staff, so we are constantly trying to cross-train and make sure everyone knows everyone's job. That's, an important goal for us.
Great. Okay, I was wondering about that. And if I can just ask one more question, because I think I only asked one, right? A compliment and a question, right? So my next question would be, how is your office operating right now? What I can knowing what you do I'm wondering, are there any downtimes now in this environment? Because I know that you have to give out a lot of certificates and a lot of unpleasant things have been happening in our city. So what is your operation right now? What does it look like?
Yeah, I would say we're busier than ever. I mean, we've had Seal Pinsky from the West Haven Funeral Home is doing a lot of the death certificates, and she needs to bring them here. She's the sub-registrar, so she brings them here. So we're doing a lot of even out-of-town death certificates. And
a lot of requests put in the box.
Yeah, we have a lot of requests because,
they can't come in.
They can't come in, so marriage certificates, death certificates, birth certificates.
And sometimes a dozen people come to the vault for books that aren't
and then, like I said,
a lot of emails for records.
A lot of the records, because we're doing all the title searchers work, so they could get the real estate transactions going.
Right.
That's huge. I mean, we're all doing that.
We're constantly sending emails.
Yeah, we get emails like tons every day, and
the state has advised us to defer weddings, but there's still people.
Right, we're still doing weddings, so where they come, where they have to get reasons, some are getting shipped out. We've had doctors coming from other countries that are going to work at Yale, and they need to get married for some reason.
Insurance.
So they're not, for insurance.
Yeah.
Well, you're making me making my head spin a little bit. You guys do seem to be busy because of the things the certificates and the certifications that you have to do. Chairwoman, that is enough for me right now. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Councilman Bruno?
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. Hi, Patty. Hi, Lori. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Hi. Hi, Bob.
Good. You're doing a good job, and thank you very much. I had two questions, but one of them already got answered. My second question is on line item 52480. What is the increase on that when you come across with it? It went from, for year 20, it went from 4,500 to 21 to 11,000. What is that increase? Can you help me with that, please?
Wait, let's see, that's probably the.
Other professional services.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
that is, it's Atkins who does our ballots, and they do a lot of our scanning for the microfiche. But the thing is, the way the budget wasn't in by line item.
Right.
It was.
It's really because the budget has never been enough historically. So when it comes time to pay the bills, it's quite a process to, at this point, just hunt and peck to find money anywhere, which is not the right way to do things, as we know, but there's never enough money for these things.
But, well, because, yeah, the budget wasn't fully funded, so we got all the bills from the past year, so this time it would reflect what that budget actually was, because in past years, there was a lot of transfers. But this year, we tried to reflect, with the help of Frank and Ray and Rob Sandella, what really is going to be spent. And we added in, of course, the elections with Atkins. They do all the ballots and all the ABs and all that. We didn't talk about the election, but, you know, they want to do the elections really through ABs this year. So that's going to be huge for our office. But that's what that is. It's not really an increase. It's just a reflection of what has been spent in the past. And the other one, IQS, that's 52770. IQS does all the software, so we can do the scanning and the recording that Lori does, the land records. So that's 52770, the other contractual services.
But going forward, we expect to separate it more clearly so that everything is more easily. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Patty. Hi, Lori. How are you this evening?
Hi, good, thank you.
Good, good. Hey, I want to go back to both categories that you guys just noted. I want to dig just a little bit deeper if I could. I know that the increase, as Councilman Bruno noted, went from 4,500 to 11,000. And I understand the ballots from Atkins. And I tell you the truth, and I'm going to say this, I've said it a couple of times already, is, you know, the budget's tight. We're looking to have the absolute essentials of what this city needs to run. We have big questions ahead of us in terms of what additional expenses this city might have because of post-pandemic, about whatever other requirements that the state, the federal government may require on us. Should it be more, should it be anywhere from new type of apparatus to sanitization? And so I do understand the enthusiasm and the great work you guys do. I've seen it, I appreciate it. But when I look at the 4,500 to 11,000, I know it's always kick the can down the road. I get it. But if you were to take that, do the math in my head now, the $6,500 increase from 4,500 to 1,100, how much of that is the ballots and how much of that is the microfiche? Because in my mind, as much as I understand both of them, I mean, is it absolutely, and the reason why I say, let me back up here, is you've spent your budget in 20 was 4,500. My assumption is you used all the 4,500 or will be in this year's budget. Are you going over budget this year or have you kept within budget? And if you've kept within budget, I would ask that you keep within budget next year as well, because it's one of these things where we have so many priorities that I don't see microfiche, and for that matter, in the other line, scanning, as important as they are, that if we needed to just hold the line to the status quo, what we had this year, and bite the bullet, where it would be too bad. But when I think of some of the other things that some of the other budgets need, like security cameras and the like, this is an area where I'd like to keep the status quo, unless you can kind of tell me or walk me through really in more detail the additional 6,500, and also on the other line, the other 15,000, because I do see you had a low budget this year of 40,000. The year before you had 47. So I'm guessing the 4,500 and the 40,000, you guys are keeping within budget because we have not had any budget transfers that I'm aware of that you've asked for more money for either of those lines. And if you haven't, that's great. But just to jump to those other figures, and I understand why, but what is absolutely essential, if we did not do the additional scanning, if we did not do the additional microfiche, and I'll say, okay, we need additional ballots, what would we be sacrificing? Because it's just, we have to make some tough, as a council, we have to make some really tough decisions. And these are one of the things that we're all grappling with. And I understand the importance, but you got to kind of sell me here in terms of why do we need this budget? Okay, thank you. Go right ahead.
All right, Gary, you know what? It's like as far as the microfiche, the books, and keeping the records, that's what we do. We keep the records, and we have to keep accurate records that are, you know, accessible. Yeah, some of the binders are, if you open them up, the pages aren't even attached. And that is, those are historical records, documents that are so important. So my job as the city clerk is to keep those records. That's my whole job, really.
Right, but what I'm saying is this past year, you kept within budget of $4,500 and $40,000 to do your job and do it quite well. Thank you. You did a great job. So my question is you guys will continue doing a great job. And to the point that was made earlier, I believe by Lori, that the part-time clerk, you know, was needed because we can only do the up to February versus April on the records. I realize that you won't get as much microfiche and you won't get as much scanned, but you'll still be able to do your jobs. You'll still be able to do your jobs. You won't be able to do as much scanning or as much microfiche. So I'm playing devil's advocate.
Gary, the reason why we put in the grant that fell through last year, we put it in, it should go through this year. That microfiche is going to be, the grant money will be used for that.
Right.
So then if you're going to get grant money.
All right. So, I mean,
Can I tell him?
Yeah, go ahead. Lori's going to talk.
Mr. Cohen, it's just that typically when I know that there's no funds left, I prepare a PO and pass it up, and between Bob Z and Ray Delamura, and I'm sure Frank as well, they look it all over and they somehow find the money to pay for it. And it's just been that way since I've been doing it. And I realize now that it's supposed to go before the council, but this budget is always under and it's never enough. And that's why Patty asked for it to be increased so that this budget going forward could accurately reflect what we need. I think that's what we're trying to get at. So it's always not enough.
I've already had my two questions, but if I can just have a 2B here and I'll be done because I think it's important. It's really for Frank then. Frank, I mean, and I respect and thank you, Lori, for the clarification. And Patty, again, I'm not trying to play the villain here. I'm just asking some very straightforward questions. Is Frank, so Frank, you're getting these additional requests. You're the extra scanning.
And can you give me a minute? Patty, I am going to mute you so that there isn't a back feed because Barry, Frank, and you guys are on. So I'm going to mute you. Just know that if you start to talk again, you're going to have to unmute. I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman Cohen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just because, Frank, my question is really then, you've been getting the extra invoices or bills, and are you seeing that they had a budget of $4,500 for other professional services, which is what's explained as the ballots and the microfiche, and then they had a budget of 40, and you went up to 50. You meaning it was decided to go up to $55,000. In other words, you have basically receipts for these particular functions that we've been just running over, or where's the money been coming from, or have you been able to stay within those budgets and you're just trying to enhance the job and do more?
No, what I noticed when I looked at the city clerk's office is that the last city clerk couldn't buy a clue when it came to budgeting. Consistently, year over year over year, overspending the budget and then never changing the budget request in the next year. So, I could provide you with 9 years worth of data showing that department overspending. So this was an attempt to actually try to get the budget in line with historical spending, as well as Patty had mentioned, a little extra because it is a national election year and there are going to be some additional expenses related to that.
So what you're saying, and then I'm going to get off the line here, is that you've taken a look. They've been over budget every year. It really has not been tracked well in the past. The budgets have been pretty much not realistic, if you will. And so you feel that based on what they really did, not what was budgeted, but what they really did, the work product that was really there, they really did overspend their 4,500 and their 40,000. So those were basically fantasy figures, and they've been somehow they've run over, or you found the money somewhere else. And these figures are more honest, or what you believe to be responsible figures versus the older figures that are just ridiculously low. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
All right, that's all. Thank you for your patience, Madam Chair. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, ladies. I'm out. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Patty and her team? Mr. Conlon, Councilman Conlon, please.
Yes, Patty, you mentioned earlier in passing something about doing the entire election with absentee ballots. I'm wondering, is this a plan B if the exigencies of the pandemic make in-person voting not possible?
Yes, so our Secretary of State, Denise Merrill, they've been testing the machines because they are getting ready for a complete AB election, and they would like them. So far, the machines have all worked where they can shut them off, turn them on through days of voting. So it's going to be like a early voting, and which I feel more comfortable with. I don't want a lot of thousands of ballots floating around my office. So when they come in, they'll be fed through the machine. That's the plan right now.
When the absentee ballots come in?
Yes, as they come in, they'll be fed through a machine every day, immediately.
Are these going to have to be applied for as they are now, or will they be sent automatically to the voters, or do you know that?
It sounds like they might just send every active voter an absentee ballot application. And they are also, we'll send the
No, there's
yes.
the state's going
The state's going to send it, and they'll also send the ballot.
Okay, that's all right.
I mean, if things calm down, they're gonna hire, I think they're gonna pay for the cleaning crew at the polls, so make sure it's sterile. But, I mean, they're preparing for, in case, we have a problem in August or September, for a complete AB early voting.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then your office shouldn't be swamped come election day any more than it normally is if these preparations are in place beforehand.
Right. It's preparing for the election, not really the election day. It's preparing.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman O'Connor?
Chairman. Hi, City Clerk friends. How are you guys?
Hi.
My question has to do with this, not so much the budget, but this absentee ballot. This is for the presidential, I'm assuming. And so that means everyone will have to vote by AB, and it'll have to be in by election day?
Well, and nothing's set. They're just preparing for different things, but we are going to have an election on August 11th. It will be a primary because Bernie Sanders is not dropping out. He wants his delegates, and either is that Rocky Republican. He's not dropping out. They both said they're not dropping out. So we will have a presidential primary and also the local. No, we're not going to have there's not a local primary, just a presidential primary August 11th. And then we'll have the general election in November.
All right, thank you. That helps me a little. I just want to make sure we have this election.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Does anyone else have any questions? I do have a couple of questions for you, Frank. Councilman Bruno, do you mind if I go?
Oh, wait, go ahead. I'll wait for you.
Thanks, because you had your turn already though, right? Did you ask a question? I'm gonna mute you, Patty and friends. So just so there's no back feed while I talk with Frank. Hi, Frank. Could you give us hopefully some numbers in regards to the city clerk's office? And I know she said that they've had a $19,000 increase over last year at this time. Is there anything else that you could possibly project for us this year? You know, how we're going to end this year and what we may see next year in regards to revenue from that office? And if it's in here already, can you tell us what page to go to see that?
The revenue would be on, let's see. Problem with the revenues is that it's broken into many different lines.
Right.
It's not by department, but
I couldn't figure it out. I wasn't really sure.
the licenses, et cetera, are all done through the clerk's office. Most of the licenses and permits.
Were you expecting that type of revenue increase, or is that, in your professional opinion, kind of like, wow? Are we just, I mean, $19,000 seems like a lot of money to me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's timing, whether again, timing over prior years. If more licenses are being collected in the last month or so than they have been in prior years. I can tell you what I am seeing is that on a year-to-date basis, the revenues coming in from the clerk's office are up over prior year, but it's only about $5,000. And that's through the end of March. So that would suggest that it could be a timing issue. But not to take away from, you know, obviously the effort that has to be done by the clerk's office to process all these additional requests.
When you did the projected revenue for next year, what are you basing that on? Are you basing that on historical, on all just historical factors, you know, trending? Are you looking at, you know, month, year-to-date averages? Like, how did you come up with that? And I don't anticipate on changing anything on the revenue line items. But what I'm thinking is, could you be optimistically thinking maybe we're going to do even better, or you're not really sure?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, the revenue side for most of the line items was done based off of a 4-year average, looking at actuals. Now, the good thing about the revenues brought in by the clerk's office is that theoretically it would have no impact from the COVID activity. People are still going to get married. They're still going to go fishing, you know, their sporting licenses, etc. Maybe they won't do it in groups anymore. But I'm not projecting any major drop in the revenues brought in by the clerk's office at this time.
Now, could we have seen an increase due to raising of fees? Like, could that, and I you know, could it be because we've raised the cost of a marriage license? And if that is not the case, one of the biggest things that I did ask for us to do this year is to look at fees and to see if they were comparable to other towns. what is your, could that be the reason?
Need to unmute. I don't have the data in front of me. All I see are the dollar amounts. So I can't tell you if it's a mix of licenses, if it's more licenses at higher rates or fewer licenses at higher rates. I can only tell you what the absolute dollars are.
Patty, do you know if your office has raised your fees? Or, and if not, when is the last time you may have, if you don't know, if one of the ladies know if we've raised fees in your office recently?
Yes. I think we did raise the fees. We definitely did, because a recording was $53 and now it's $60 and things like that. But I think a reflection of the raise in what we've earned is mostly because of the real estate market, the way it fluctuates every quarter. It kind of, you know, it indicates that fluctuation here in our office with sales and other things. I think that might be a good.
July of 18.
July of 18 was the last time our fees were raised. That's liquor and marriage and things like that.
It's the real estate.
It's the real estate, the way the market ebbs and flows, I think.
Would you know, Patty, or has anybody looked at the surrounding municipalities to see if our marriage license, did you say liquor license or any other, if we're still in line with them, or could we benefit from raising any of those fees?
We go by state guidelines for everything, and we are.
Every town is the same. Marriages, liquor.
Yeah.
It's
a state. It's
State mandated.
mandated.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you. I wasn't aware, so I appreciate that information. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions for Patty and her team? Crystal, Councilwoman Finelli, please.
Hi, ladies. I just have a quick question, and I don't know if you can answer it or Frank can, but is it safe to assume then with adding in that extra clerk position that that's kind of going to help you get through some of the work and bring in some additional revenue?
I don't know about.
No, we can't guarantee that.
No, we can't guarantee
Okay.
It's just a service thing. God forbid Lori ever got sick or we lost someone.
And it's the kind of thing where we used to help people more than we can help them now. And sometimes they're a little disgruntled over that, but we really can't sit with them and help them sort their land records out anymore because we just don't have the extra 20 minutes anymore.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if it was something that like there's, bills that needed to be sent out or something that you're not able to get to. But no, I get it. It definitely sounds like it's something that you guys need, but thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Councilman Massaro?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Patty, this new position that you want to put down, part-time clerk, does the part-time clerk have to be in the union?
No, with part-time, no benefits, no union.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions for Patty and her team? Councilman Johnston?
Hi, Patty and friends.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
This is just a quick question in the spirit of looking for money in the area of fees. I don't know what the state laws are, but I know that typically West Haven doesn't charge a fee for notary publics. And so I don't know how much revenue you actually get from being a notary. But I was just wondering if that's something that we could consider if there were a lot of people, especially if they were non-residents, which doesn't really seem likely. If that's an area where we could add a fee.
No, usually, hi, this is Sharon. Usually it's a courtesy for West Haven residents that we notarize. A lot of times it's paperwork for the Board of Ed and they're, you know, West Haven residents, and we just notarize with no charge. Yeah, that's about, that's it. But I think some towns charge maybe $5 for non-residents, but 95% of the time they're West Haven residents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, Patty, once again, I just want to say, you know, we really do appreciate that you and your team have joined us this evening. We do wish you and the rest of the ladies, you know, stay healthy and safe. We appreciate all you're doing during this pandemic, and we ask that you continue to wash your hands. And we do appreciate everything you do for the citizens of West Haven.
And we appreciate all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Thank you. And thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Before we end for the evening, does anybody have anything that they'd like to quickly discuss? Excellent. So the time is now 7:39. I will recess the meeting until Tuesday at 6 p.m. Everybody stay safe and well.
Nice job.
Chairwoman.
Thank you. Good job, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
This
Patty
was wonderful
Horvath
after last night.
left the meeting.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.